How to become a photographer for beginners. So this is an interesting topic. Photography is something that people naturally progress into. So you may have taken loads of photos and you've enjoyed taking photos and you've thought, you know what, I could professionally do this and make a living from it. So in the current day and age, everything's digital and electronic. So there's a massive market out there, especially for photographers. So you want to be able to be in the top tier of photographers. A lot of people will say they're photographers when they use mobile phones and take photos. Technically, everybody is a photographer. It's not difficult to take a photo these days. Where you want to set yourself apart from a normal photographer is you want to be able to deliver photos consistently at a set standard. So you might find you take, like, currently, if you're a beginner, you're taking loads of photos and you're like, out of 50, I've got 10 of them look really nice. As a professional, you're expected to take better photos consistently. So if you turn up to a gig and you're doing product photos, for example, you want to be able to take photos of those items consistently well. So even though there's different items there, the lighting needs to look the same, the view of the item needs to look the same, the perspective of it needs to look the same. So for example, if you've got a set and I've got two items that I'm taking photos of. So for example, I've got a USB device and then I've got a pen, possibly. They need to be relative in the scene, which means you have a set amount of focus, if that focus and focal length on your lens. So for example, a set 100 millimeter between every shot, so they all look similar on the website. And the background, if it needs to be white, it's consistently white, so it doesn't stick out on a gray, for example. So becoming a photographer is not difficult. You need to practice your skill. You need to be able to deliver photos professionally. You need to have good communication skills. So if you're taking client photos, for example, you need to be able to communicate with them effectively to get a brief. So the onus is going to be on you as a photographer. So you might have a company or someone, or let's make it simple. Let's say you've got a store and you've been approached or you've found a gig at a store and they want you to take loads of photos for them, and they sell, I don't know, trainers. That's a good example. Trainers in the UK, sneakers in America. It's not Snickers as in the chocolate, but sneakers. Yeah, interesting. So that's an item. So you need to be able to have loads of creative ideas in your head to be able to take photos of, I'm going to call them sneakers, in a creative way so people find them pleasing to buy the product. Because your job as a photographer mainly is going to be taking photos of items in the aim of getting people to buy them most of the time, advertising. Or it might be a different story. You might be taking photos of a wedding to do a story and make a storyline and memories for them to remember in the future. So you're doing different types of photography. That all depends on what your journey is. But if you're becoming a photographer, you need to know which direction you're going. I'm going to stick with that sneakers one and the shoe trainers one. So in that scenario, if you're a beginner photographer, and you want to become a photographer professionally or as a full-time career, you need to be able to take photos, supply photos, give creative insight into photos. So the store might say, I've got 50 trainers, I need you to take photos of them. You need to be able to say, okay, that's fine, we can do that. However, what would you like to do with the photos once they've been taken? Are you planning to use them online? Are you planning to have them printed in magazines? Do you want a big billboard made of it? All these things will determine what your criteria is for the photos and your pricing as well. So pricing for photos can vary on the amount of time it takes you to take the photo, edit the photo, produce the photo, print the photo, even the setup of it. Because there will be times where you'll take one photo, but you might end up spending an hour on the setup because it's a creative shot. So trainers, for example, you might want them, like for example, the JD adverts where they have funny angles and they look really highly saturated. All those things need time and editing as well. So you need to be able to edit photos. If not, you need to consider into your pricing structure if you're going to get an editor hired in who's going to edit the photos for you. So in terms of photography and how to become a photographer as a beginner or for beginners, you need to have a good idea. It's a business. So you need to treat it as a business. You need to be professional with everybody you come into contact with. You will have challenges. People will challenge you sometimes depending on the gear you have. So you need to be ready for that. If you're doing it professionally, build a portfolio. That helps a lot. I've done a couple of different segments about portfolios, how you can make a cheap portfolio and things like online portfolios versus printed portfolios. So once you can prove you're consistently delivering photos at a good rate, people will stop questioning what camera you've got. Because I know a lot of people will ask now, what type of camera do you have when you're taking photos? However, if they've seen your work prior to you going, they're going to know, you know what, this guy knows what he's doing. Why do I need to ask him about his camera? Most of the time it'll be word of mouth. So if you've done really good photos for a certain client, you've moved to another client, they will say, actually, you know what, we took photos and look at these photos that they took for us, or check our website, this is the kind of photos he takes. So they'll already have an idea of what kind of range you've got. There's different types of photography. You may have to go to their venue to do photos. You may have to do them at home. They might ship stuff to you. You might be doing product photos in the sense of online shutterstock, you know, like the standard photos that they buy. More people are starting to use those online resources for stock photos now because they cheaper is what they're saying. However, they're not tailored to that company. If you can provide a company with tailored photos of their products with models or in a certain environment, that is going to be a lot better than a standard photo that they use. So you need to target the right market. You need to look at what is good for you, what you're good at, and stick to that. Don't end up doing wedding photography if you're good at product photography. Try and keep in your remit. So everybody specializes in a certain field, so make sure you have your specialized field. Don't be a jack of all trades in photography. It can be tricky. There's different types of photography. So wedding photography, for example, is a whole new ball game to taking photos for commercial clients. So you've got families to deal with. You've got going to have challenging people that may not want to be in photos. You'll have to have a different approach to that. You might have to get people out in the open, get them set in certain positions so that the photo looks nice. So you're going to have to direct more of that. So some people do better at that than others. You may end up having a team of people that help you do that, which is all feasible. Just keep it in mind when you're thinking about this as a photographer, because it will help you in that journey. I made a few series of videos about the core elements of photography and kind of helping you on the journey of it. So I'm hoping these help you. I've linked to the playlist, which gives you tips of becoming a photographer and the journey it takes. See you on one of those videos.